Shalom, I'm giving all praise to Yahweh, Bashem, Yahshua, Bashem, Makakodah, Shalom to the 144,000, and the rest of the elect out there, Shalom to you all. And I'm going to entitle this video, They're Following the One Westers. When I say they are, I'm talking about the heathens, and, Esau, the media, Christians, whoever. Anyway, this is a video I didn't even get to watch. I kind of got up to like the minute mark, so I had to kind of, watch, listen, stop, put some input, put in according to the spirit. So the video was put up by GMS Info Doc Channel 12, titled "These Devils and Anti-Christians Are Watching." Now, when he says anti-Christians, he's talking about people that are against the real Messiah. So these Christians, the average person that calls himself a Christian is really an anti-Christian. We are the real Christians. So let's go ahead and just listen. Let's see where I go with this.
I've never heard anyone pretty much talk about, and pretty much they're watching the Israelites and taking a lot of different talking points from the Israelites and acting as if they were the ones that came up with it. I've never heard anyone pretty much talk about a lot of the points that we bring out in any church or any so-called scholar realm, so to speak, but the Hebrew Israelites. Now, earlier today, I was listening to the radio on 600, 6 something, on the AM dial, and there was this dude that was going into talking about how the ancient Babylonian Empire wasn't taken out in the fashion that it describes in Isaiah 13, and he mentioned other scriptures. And right off the
he definitely followed One Westers. When I say One Westers, I'm not just talking about GMS. I'm talking about all the major camps that came out of One West, namely IUIC, ISBK, GMS, and there was other camps too. You had Lions of Israel and others out there, HODC.
Matt already knew that they've been watching, because no one was talking about those things prior to the Hebrew Israelites bringing it out. And that just was more further confirmation that these devils been watching, these anti-Christians been watching, but they don't have character or integrity to tell the people where they're getting these talking points from. And like I said, I mean, it could be other platforms that talk about this. I have never heard of any that bring out scriptures, on Babylon the Great, or Babylon, should I say, not being taken out in the fashion that is described in them different chapters in Isaiah and Jeremiah, so on and so forth. So it led me to believe that, which we already knew, that these devils have been watching. And they're just taking talking points from, the Hebrew Israelites, making it their own and not giving credit for it. Now, as he kept talking, he never said, what or who Babylon the Great was, or Babylon was, but he said it's a future event, and now when you do research on the AI overview or in the chat, they're going to tell you that many scholars, believe that some of these prophetic scriptures are for a future time. They weren't talking about that before, because when you read through some of these, commentaries in the past, they'll tell you that scriptures like Daniel 5 and other scriptures were already fulfilled. Isaiah 13, Jeremiah 50, Jeremiah 51, that they were already fulfilled. And that's not the case. And one thing that this devil said that even made me more suspicious was when he mentioned which I never heard anybody speak about it but Elder Pastor. He said that when the Medo Persians came in, it was a hostile takeover because the king and all of the rulers of the king were all, feasting. They were all pretty much drunk or something along those lines. So I was like, come on, man. But they don't have the minerals to say where they're getting the information from.
It was a surgical strike. Darius put the order out to take out the king of Babylon at that time. Some say it's Nebuchadnezzar, which is supposed to be the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar, I believe the name was. You got to go into that history. That's during the time of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And what happened was there was a handwriting on the wall. Mene, mene, tekel. And it said that when you interpret it, it was Daniel that interpreted it. Basically said that you were undisciplined, found in wanton, and you're going to be taken out tonight. I can go to it. I may go to it. Then again, I may not. You know what? Let me go to it anyway, since I'm speaking on it. And then I want to go into the history. Give me a second here. It's gotta be Daniel chapter 5. Daniel 5. Belshazzar's feast. Okay, so I guess it's Belshazzar. You do want to read this whole chapter. Okay, you know what? There is a man in the kingdom, 11 verse, in whom is the spirit of the holy gods, and in the days of thy father light, and understanding and wisdom, like the wisdom of the gods. Spirit world was found in him, whom the king Nebuchadnezzar, thy father, so this is Belshazzar, the king, I say, thy father, made master of the magicians, astrologers, Chaldeans, and soothsayers, for as much as an excellent spirit and knowledge and understanding, interpreting of dreams, Daniel, and showing of hard sentences. That's why people can't get these breakdowns. Esau be following us. The mark of the beast is a hard sentence. It says, dissolving of doubts were found, and showing of hard sentences and dissolving of doubts were found in the same Daniel, whom king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Let me do this. Belshazzar is the king. And let me find it again. Daniel's name. Where the hell did it go? Let me do it this way. I just lost it. Belshazzar is a king. Belshazzar the king. I'm trying to find his name again. Menu interpretation. Handwritten. Okay, so this is Daniel, who the king named. I thought I hit it over here. I should have hit it up here. Who the king named Belteshazzar. Now let Daniel, which is Belteshazzar, let Daniel be called, and he will show the interpretation. Daniel interprets handwriting on the wall. Let me hold that. Let me take that X out. that check mark. I can't find that. Maybe it's in the, can't be in the fourth verse. Give me a second, y'all. Okay, here it is right here. I'm going crazy looking for it. Go right to the point. Then was the part of the hand sent from him, and this writing was written. And this is the writing that was written. Many Tico Upharsin. This is the interpretation of the thing. Daniel breaks it down. Many. This is not Hebrew, by the way, and it's not the Chaldean or the Babylonian or Syriac. It was like a hidden language. The Most High have numbered thy kingdom and finished it. This like this kingdom. This kingdom, the handwriting is on the wall. Tico, thou art weighed in the balance and are found wanting, not disciplined. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes. The Medo-Persian Empire started with the Medes. It said Medes and Persians, and that's in secular history. Now it was the Medes. You had Darius, he was the king, and he put out the order to take, in other words, slit their throat while they were drunk. And they had food in them. They had the king's food, which was carbs. Okay, let me do this. Let me just do this. Because when you go to Jeremiah 50, 51, Isaiah 13, these different prophetic scriptures, and it speaks about Babylon, they'll say, oh, that's talking about ancient. No, it's not. As the apostle said. It's not what I want. God had judged King Belshazzar, terminated his reign, and immediately transferred the Babylonian Empire to the allied forces of the Medes and Persians. But it doesn't go into detail. It wasn't a long, fought-out war. Perez, a term split or broken, was play on word upon in Arabic, linking it to Paris, Persia. That's what they're saying. The verdict: the Babylonian Empire was to be torn away from its present leadership. The outcome: the kingdom was surrendered to the Medes and Persians, Darius and Cyrus, which was accomplished that same night. It was a surgical strike. Give you a perfect example. When Nero said to go down to Venezuela and get the president and his wife, that was overnight. That was on a Friday night. That's what you call a surgical strike. But he didn't kill him. So that's what they did. That's what the Medo-Persian Empire, at that time led by Darius, did. Surgical strike. So we don't need no more. So we come back over here.
And being that they don't have any answers, they're looking to the prophets to pretty much pick and choose what they want. Now, as he kept talking, he said, it was a future event, but he never mentioned what that future event was, or who the people were, or where the place was, And then after that, I stopped listening, But I just got enough of what I needed, which lets me know that these devils been watching. Now, when we do read Daniel 5:1, it says Belshazzar, which was the regent king. A regent king is not the actual king, but he is in the stead of the actual king. because his father Nabonidus, who was the actual king, he had been in prison for about 10 years. And when he got out of the prison sentence, he was on excursions, you know, to build up the kingdom, so on and so forth. So he never really was one of those kings that would sit on the throne or sit at home. So he had his son running the kingdom for him. It says the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords, see, and drank wine before the 1,000. So you had this great feast where they were all drinking, eating, getting tore up from the floor, as they say. So when he made that talk about, I said, "Come on, man!" That him and all of his lords or all of his rulers, I forget exactly how he put it, were all drunk, or they were all, drinking, or having a merry old time. And then when he said a hostile takeover, I said, "Come on, man." He either said hostile takeover or something along those lines, same exact wording or something similar to it. Which shows me that these devils they've been watching. But one thing he never did was he never touched on how this Babylon will be taken out. Because when you do go to Isaiah 13:1, it says the burden of Babylon. So Isaiah saw pretty much the destruction of Babylon. And Isaiah himself thought that this was talking about the ancient Babylonian Empire or the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which it wasn't. This was talking about a future event that would take place in these times.
And if the Spirit was dealing with them, they would know that it's talking about America. And none of them say that. Now, I believe a lot of them know that it has to be pointing to America. But they're not going to say it because they don't want to admit that they're in Babylon and they're going to be destroyed.
Because the name Babylon is not always speaking about the area of Babylon. All right? Because Babylon is an actual place in Iraq. All right? This looks like a pretty decent map. I just want to get like some. Okay, this is a good map. Good map. Here's Babylon. This is in what today is known as Iraq. This is down here the Persian Gulf. Then you have Iran over here. So this is ancient Babylon, and also the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Now, this place, when you read about Babylon in the scriptures, it's not always referring to this region here. Babylon is just a model for the new Babylonian Empire. That's why in Revelation 17, it mentions in the 5th verse, and upon her forehead, meaning this harlot, when you read from the first verse down, was the name written. Mystery, because it was a mystery. So when you go and you take account of when this was written roughly around 90-something AD, way after the Babylonian Empire had been taken over by the Medo-Persian Empire. And that's also what he said. He said the Medo-Persian Empire just came in there with a hostile takeover. So this would be a mystery as to what this place is. But none of these scholars, Christian.
Now, we were going through this Revelation 17 this past Saturday.
Christian, preachers or whatever.
Yeah, mystery Babylon the Great. Mystery Babylon the Great. So that's why certain born againers, they'll teach it. That is talking about Babylon, like Stan Johnson of the Prophecy Club. He's been teaching that for years. But the majority of them, I'll say 98, 99% of them, they don't know what it is. But it's a mystery. So a mystery is only given to the people that the Spirit, the Great Spirit, opened their eyes to see.
have ever been able to put this together. Now you had an individual by the name of Stan Johnson from
see, we're on the same page. I didn't know he was going to mention Stan Johnson.
the Prophecy Club, who had also been watching, took a lot of the precepts that we went into, this dude right here.
Yeah, he lined them precepts up the same way we lined them up. Them same precepts that we hit, he lined them up. So we believe that he's been watching us.
And acted like he came up with it. And he was talking about Babylon, you know, it's Isaiah 13 and Isaiah 14 and Jeremiah 50 and Jeremiah 51. He was quoting all those scriptures that we quoted. You've never heard any of these so-called Bible preachers or thumpers or scholars equate all of those scriptures with America. All right? It just didn't happen, and it's not going to happen. So this right here, this Babylon is talking about modern day Babylon, because when you read how it was taken out, the Neo-Babylonian Empire was not taken out in this fashion. So now all of a sudden, these devils are all of a sudden, you know, using these talking points to try to sound deep, because ain't nobody trying to hear that old ass, you know, Christian breakdown. That old ass Jesus loves everybody and
yeah, ain't nobody want to be a Christian no more. Ain't nobody want to be a Christian. Christianity's played out, and the Israelites really exposed Christianity. Them people don't be getting into studies. When you ever go to sermon, and the pastor goes into a particular scripture and he said, let's go into the Hebrew word for this and the Greek word for that. Where you ever go to church and they pull out a map, they're speaking about the ancient world, where Abraham started. You'd have to bring up a map. People associate things with pictures. Ur of the Chaldees. As a Christian, where's Ur of the Chaldees located in the scriptures? Geographically, where's that located? Where's the wilderness? Point on a map the wilderness where the Israelites sojourned for 40 years.
you know, the Lord is a so-called white man, and ain't nobody trying to hear that old song and dance, that singing and dancing, you know, slapping the tambourine, acting a fool, foaming at the mouth, you know, demon filled. Ain't nobody trying to hear that shit anymore. That shit is not working anymore. People want answers. So these devils are forced to go into the scriptures. These devils are forced to watch. These devils are forced to take talking points to keep their congregation, you know, to keep their congregation, what's the word I'm looking for? Captivated, for lack of better words. So it says, which Isaiah the son of Amos did see. So this is what they're doing. So it says, lift you up a banner upon the high mountain. The banner is the Bible. And how do we lift it up? When we go out there and we teach on the streets. What is a high mountain? A mountain represents a government. A high mountain represents a high government. In this case, it's talking about America. And when you're lifting up the banner or the Bible in America, which is Babylon the Great, exalt the voice unto them. Shake the hand. And when you exalt the voice into someone and shaking the hand, you're pretty much telling them off, cursing them out. It says that they may go into the gates of the nobles. That's why there's talks now of banning free speech, especially speech that questions.
Going to the gates of the nobles, where this is getting to the top, high echelon, the elite, which they know about us. They know what we teach. This current war that Nero declared with the Israel, they know that this is the fulfillment of prophecy, because what are they saying? We're going over there to Iran to attack it so that Christ could come back. Now, you know I'm saying Christ. they're ushering Christ in. Now, first of all, you can't usher nobody in, because not even the Messiah, because he doesn't know when he got to come in. You can't make the Most High come when you want him to come. This is what these devils don't understand. And if they knew that there was a Messiah and they're expecting an Edomite to come back, Caesar Borgia to come back and get him. So either they doing that for the masses out there, or they know what's really going on. They must know that Ezekiel 38 is a kickoff to this war. If you won't be anywhere on the planet Earth attacking somebody militarily, you don't want to be in fucking Iran. That's the one place you don't want to be, pursuing in accordance with the scriptures.
The small hats, because that's who's really at the helm of controlling everything.
I'll say the elite of the small hats, because these small hats are protesting. You got these Orthodox protesting against Zionists, so you have a split there. So the small hats ain't controlling shit. It's the elite of the small hats that's controlling shit, and it comes from the Rothschilds, the super rich, down. Oh, another thing, we still haven't seen Bibi. Where Bibi at? Remember where FEMA at? Where BEMA at? Where Bibi at?
And it's not going too good for you over there in Iran. Thought you were going to have
yeah, because Iran is fighting a war of attrition. A war of attrition. Look that up.
Venezuela moment. Not so. It goes on to say, I have commanded my sanctified ones, which are the prophets. I have also called my mighty ones for mine anger, which are the angels, even them that rejoice in my highness. And that's proof that it's talking about the angels. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people. A tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together. And this is going to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Armageddon, over there in what they call the so-called Middle East or Western Asia.
By the way, you ask a question, a Christian, what does the word Jehoshaphat mean? Most of the time they wouldn't know. They may say it's talking about the place of judgment. They don't know how to break it down. But they couldn't even tell you the meaning of Jehoshaphat.
And there's a lot of individuals now bringing that point out. Now, I don't know if they got those talking points from the Elder Malcolm or, because it's people that are from that side of the world. So they understand that there's no such thing as Europe. It's either Eurasia or Western Asia. The scriptures never call that area Europe. It calls it Asia Minor. So these are all these militaries gathering over there in what the so-called scholars call the Fertile Crescent, specifically in that barren land that Joel describes in Joel, the 2nd chapter. That's where all the masses of these forces are gathering together. And this is why America has placed so many military bases around those areas, because the Lord was setting them up to go there, to set it up so that this final war could take place there. And there's all of them devils that go there, nations that go there, these militaries are going to be totally wiped out. It says the Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle, because it's Yahweh Bashem Yahushai that's mustering the host of the battle. And if the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai does not want this war to cease or to stop for a moment, it's going to just keep escalating. And as I did the lesson earlier, I mentioned that I played a video where there's this one Edomite looking dude that said pretty much that Israel just attacked. I'm not sure if it was something to do with the Russians. All right, and that if that's the case, then that's going to cause even more problems. But that's also showing you that, like the scriptures say, the least of the flock shall draw them out. The scriptures don't lie. The least of the flocks are the least of the flock are those small hats. known in the scriptures as the Amalekites. And it's going to get bad out there. So the Lord is gathering us, those militaries over there. So if the Lord does not want this war to die down and just to keep going and fanning as the MOTB continues to flourish, the prophecy, and did a lesson earlier to where they're pretty much setting up, the 6G, for the brain, and there was, it was a whole, you could go and watch the video earlier. I don't remember every little single detail, but everything is playing out the way the Lord said it would. And this war is actually systematically breaking down and crumbling the economy even more and more. So once the economy crumbles, that gives them the opportunity to pretty much bring in that MOTB system. You see? So everything is playing out as the Lord set it up that it would. So if Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai doesn't want this war to stop, guess what? It's going to continue. And it's going to end with the missiles and the lasers from the chariots. Verse 5 says, they come from a far country, from the end of heaven. What is this talking about? This is talking about the nuclear missiles. Whether they just regular conventional nuclear missiles, ICBMs, whether they're intercontinental ballistic missiles, Russia.
And these missiles are mentioned so many times in code in the scripture. You know how we roll off the tongue these different prophetic books. Isaiah 13, definitely talking about the destruction, this end time destruction. Joel 2, Joel 3, Isaiah 34, Isaiah 14, the last 5 or 6 verses goes into it. Speaks about the cockatrice and fiery flying serpents. Those are missiles. So it's all throughout the scriptures in many different scenarios. Daniel 7, Daniel 2. So this is, hey, if you notice, we've been going into a lot of prophetic scriptures because all of the last other prophecies are coming to pass in our time, in our lifetime.
Pretty much, is making, smaller nuclear plants, smaller technology to be able to carry these payloads where they can't pretty much be. So these nations are fighting a war on a way much higher military strategic playing field than you devils here in America. Your whole military strategies are antiquated. You're trying to bring old, what was that war? Not the Civil War. I mentioned it earlier with the British. The War of Independence. You're trying to bring old War of Independence strategies to this New Age war. You're trying to bring old World War II strategies to this new age or this new world or the new military tactics that have been perfected and being perfected each day by Russia, by Iran, by China, and by others that are linked in with them. They're fighting a highly strategic military battle while you're still fighting that old conventional way. You're coming up in there with that old bouncing the basketball and scooping it up into the basket. They're coming with slam dunks, 360-degree basketball dunking, inside joke. But you coming with that old shit and they coming with the new shit. So your whole shit.
Let the weak say I am strong. Beat your plowshares into spears. Your pruning hooks and what has it go? Anything that you use for agriculture, you use it for weapons. Like a pruning hook would be a spear or a missile.
It's going to fail because you didn't keep up with the times, because you were so proud. The pride of thine heart has deceived thee. You were so proud in thinking that these big ass tankers or these big ass what them things called, big ass aircraft carriers, and all that shit, that was something to be proud of. That's nothing more than a big ass target. Now in the Strait of Hormuz, you cannot bring submarines up in there, which that could have afforded you some type of secrecy. But guess what? The Iranians have mini subs, and those mini subs can actually maneuver in the Strait of Hormuz and take you out. So they've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for your red ass to come up in here. They've been waiting for your red ass to come up in there. And this is the Lord systematically, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, systematically breaking down your whole shit. Because it's time for you to go down. And what beauty is it that 2026 is the 250th year anniversary of the American Empire, which pretty much is, empires on a whole only last 250 years. And how beautiful it is, how poetic is it that this war that you thought you would have a Venezuela moment of is giving you such a hard time, to where all of your shit's depleted because you done gave all your shit to Israel, you done gave all your shit to Ukraine.
Because Nero is not an expert of war. He does not listen to the generals, but ultimately Most High put the spirit on him. In deep sleep, in the night, when deep sleep falleth upon a man, then he sealeth his instructions. Job 30, either 33 and 15 or 15 and 33.
Your shit's depleted, so you're trying to buy time by saying, I'm going to give you 2 days, I'm going to give you 5 days, I'm going to give you 10 days.
That's weakness. That's a sign of weakness.
Because you're trying to stall.
Indecisiveness.
Because you're running out of these munitions that ain't working. And these Iranians are running circles around you in the ring. They're pretty much handling you. They're pretty much sending out decoys, and you're shooting your good shit at these decoys, and then they're coming in with the other stuff and fucking you up. You had military men actually agree that, they had to run for their lives from the Iranians. That wild boar done came out the goddamn bush, and he's just running buck wild, man. He's showing his ass. And he picking up you devils with the tusks and throwing you from side to side and showing you what a real war is all about. They've been planning. You slept on the Iranians. The Iranians been planning. They kicking your ass. But this is all prophecy. The Carmanians raging like wild boars, that's how they coming. So it says they come from a far country, from the end of the heaven, even the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and the weapons of his indignation, to what? To destroy the whole land. And who is going to destroy the whole land? We're going to jump back up. Jump down to the 17th verse. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver as for gold, they shall not delight in it. Their bows, which are their silos, which equates to their arrows, which are the missiles, also shall dash your young men to pieces, your military men, and also here in America. Babylon the Great. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Let's see what it says in the NLT. Babylon, the most glorious of kingdoms. Dig it. The flower of Chaldean pride will be devastated like Sodom and Gomorrah when the Most High destroyed them. All you have to do is go back to Genesis, the 19th chapter, and read how the Lord destroyed ancient Sodom, Gomorrah, and the cities that were nearby. You had Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and Zoar. You know? And how were they destroyed? By the Lord causing the elements in the heavens to infuse together and shoot down fireballs upon these places. And what these archaeologists have found is that these areas where Sodom and Gomorrah and them used to be have residue of these that show that there was like fire or some type of nuclear explosion or something that came down upon these places. And back then, nuclear fusion, nuclear missiles didn't exist, but the elements existed. So ancient Babylon didn't go out this way. No, the Neo-Babylonian Empire didn't go out this way. So this devil that was listened to earlier, he's trying to bring out, he didn't bring out that point, but he brought out, you know, that the Babylonian, Neo-Babylonian Empire was not taken over, it was a hostile takeover. I'm like, come on, man, who else says that? Besides Great Millstone, beginning with Elder Pastor, that it was a hostile takeover. And I'm pretty sure if you go into these different commentaries, they're not going to say that. Now, were there still wars going on during that hostile takeover? Yeah. Because Nabonidus, who was the actual king at the time, he was on campaigns in different wars. But it's not mentioned in the scriptures the wars that he was involved in because that wasn't important. What was important was the transfer of the Neo-Babylonian Empire to the Medo-Persian Empire. That was it. And that's all it was. It was a transfer of power. There was no great war. There was no great fire. And the whole land was not overthrown, as we read in the 5th verse. It says, even the Lord and the weapons of his indignation to destroy the whole land. But one thing that devil never did was he didn't break it all the way down. He didn't say who Babylon today was. Because they're still leaving you, you know, under the impression that it's talking about that side of the world, even though he didn't say it that way. Or I didn't listen long enough to hear him say that. So these devils are desperate because the average Christian is no longer going to church. You know, if you ain't in your 40s, in your 40s and above, most people, most Jakes, even Jake today, are not really going to church unless you happen to be a church-going family, and even in that, the only people you see in the church today is old, decrepit Jakes. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but it's true, because they're still under them blinders of the beast. The God of this world still got them blind. They still pray to white Jesus as blue as Jesus' eyes. They're still, you know, it's an inside joke from the movie Rosewood, but it's true. You still have Jake that believe like that. You still have Jake that have not graduated from the 1600 mentality, that slave mentality, all the way in the 2026. You still got individuals that think that way. But for the most part, the younger generation is not buying that shit because there's too much information out there. It's not like it was, before in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, where there wasn't too much information going out, where these devils still had the ability to continue to deceive the people. The gospel's out. See, and if the gospel is hid, especially in these times, it's because the God of this world, which is Esau, has blinded the minds of them which believe not. Because once the glorious gospel shines onto you, and you happen to be an Israelite, and you happen to be part of the elect, you're going to wake up from that blindness. So ancient Babylon or Neo-Babylonian Empire did not go out in the fashion that this is described here, and many other scriptures, which that devil was talking about. But when he said that the lords or the rulers of the Babylonian Empire were all, getting drunk and all that stuff, and there was a hostile takeover, I said, come on, man. I never heard anybody say that. So they're getting their talking points from the Israelites, even though they're talking shit about the Israelites. So these devils and these anti-Christians, they've been watching. Oh, you better believe they've been watching. Because they need talking points. They're desperate to keep their followers, and they're desperate to gain more followers. And I'm pretty sure if you do the research, a lot of these churches are closing down because there's not enough members there to keep the building open anymore. Because, a big-ass building like that, it's taking a lot of, resources and energy to keep it going. The maintenance, electricity, the water, so on and so forth. So these devils, man, they watching. Best better believe they're watching. All right, and I'll finish up down here. Verse Isaiah 13:19. And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. That didn't happen back then. Ancient Babylon is still around. It's still over there, as we showed you in the. Actually, here, it's still over there. You still have certain ruins and stuff like that. You still have people that go through there, walk through there. There's still businesses going on over there. It says, it shall never be inhabited. And there's still people that go there. Neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there. This is talking about America. The Arabian, you have a lot of Ishmaelites here that set up shop here. Neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Same deal with the Ishmaelites. But wild beasts of the desert shall lie there. And this goes hand in hand with Isaiah 34 and other scriptures. Revelation 18. It says, and their houses shall be full of doleful creatures. What houses is this talking about? Meaning your major governmental agencies. The Pentagon, the White House, and others. Where in the place where they were at, there's going to be nothing there, but you're going to have wild creatures roaming all of that area where you used to have the Washington Monument, what was it, Jefferson Memorial? No, Lincoln Memorial. Then you have something dealing with Jefferson. You had the Capitol. So all of that, anywhere on the shores of America, you're gonna have wild beasts going all throughout there. And owls shall dwell there, and satyrs shall dance there. And the wild beasts of the island shall cry in their desolate houses, and dragons in their pleasant palaces. And her time is near to come, especially in these times. And her days shall not be prolonged. So there's nothing you could do, because she and his days are determined, and none of his months are redeemed. So you're not going to be able to prolong your days, your rulership. Let's look up this word prolong. The word there's mashak. To draw, drag, seize. You're not going to be able to draw it out. You're not going to be able to kick that can down the road anymore. You're going to be forced to deal with every issue right then and there. Because this is the great time of prophecy. It says here to draw out, prolong, continue. You're not going to continue. Just go to one more thing, see what it says in the NLT. Hyenas will howl in its fortresses, and jackals will make dens in its luxurious palaces. Yeah, all your different places where people used to go, you know, your different fancy hotels and all of that. Babylon's days are numbered. Its time of destruction will soon arrive. And you're not going to be able to prolong your days. Just like the writing on the wall, many, many tekel farson, your days are numbered, you haven't found, you haven't weighed in the balance and have been found wanting. Back then you were given over to the Persians, beginning with the Medes, but today you're going to be given over to Yahushua. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments? So that's what this is talking about. So those missiles flying, all these different wars, that's Yahweh Bashem Yahushua setting everything up, the stage up for Yahushua to take his rightful place on the throne. So with that, I pray that you brothers and sisters have been edified. So the next time I say, Shalom.
bear with me for a minute, please. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. Shalom. Shalom.